What if
Anyway,
Blaze Cabin
Blaze
and
and Silver.
Seven
These
together?
two had a great dynamic in Sonic
Blaze and
06.
Seven.
Blaze's calm
Blaze is
rationality always calling
calm
against
and
Silver's
Sonic
overzealous
type,
ambition.
and
While
different
Blaze suppresses her
around
emotions,
me.
Silver is practically bursting at the
Humans.
seams with them. His rage against
Flash
Iblis, his sorrow for the destroyed world, and his
and
misplaced
and
righteousness as
she
he
comes
butts head
from
with
the
Sonic and
destroyed world,
Shadow in the
but
past. All of this is
from
what
world
made him
2,
naive enough
and
to believe in
the
Nephilus when he
Chinese
offered him a way to
7
save
is
the
my
future. And Blaze even
one
says as much.
curious.
Silver is
Like,
maintained
one
that
late.
Blaze is much more of a realist, but the two of them do share similarities.
Animals.
They were both burdened by
So
isolation and a sense of duty, and bonded with it. Beyond that, Silver is also psychokinetic. He can use his mind to manipulate matter, to float and fly through the air, pick up and toss around anything he can see like a weapon, or even snatch his enemies right up off the ground and send them flying. Silver is a lot like a blunt object, well-intentioned but often misguided and too motivated to listen to reason. He will bowl you over with the power to smash apart buildings in a wave of psychic force. But he's not all angst and destruction. His emotionality also makes him very joyful and particularly appreciative of the beauties of the past that he never got to experience in his destroyed future. So, what does it look like when he fuses with Blaze, who often willingly limits how much of the world she can see in order to maintain control? We get Aurora the Civic. Aurora has all of Blaze's refinement along with Silver's energy. A lot like Comet, she's basically a balance between their two personalities. Driven and decisive like Silver, but, she doesn't run around screaming about future. Her powers are the source of her name. An aurora is when charged particles from the sun light up in blue-green energy that dances across the sky, like Silver's psychic energy powered up by Blaze's flames. And that's exactly how they work. She can manipulate matter and throw it around just like Silver, but anything her mind is touching, she can choose to instantly superheat, catching an enemy robot out of the air and melting it into molten metal in a snap, or carving huge swaths of earth out of the way by effortlessly boiling it into magma. It's a terrifying and potentially unwieldy power, one wielded by someone who knows what it means to have a dimension to protect and a future to save. So, we've seen Sonic and Blaze and Silver. Next up, how about Sonic and Silver? These two haven't gotten much time as a duo, not like Sonic has with Shadow, but the IDW comics do give them an arc to shine together as dual protagonists, and I think that was dope. Because these two have a lot of untapped potential. Sonic is extremely chill, while Silver is usually either freaking out about an apocalypse or elated that he gets to eat real vegetables here in the past. But they're both very prideful, so when they get into a confrontation, they play off each other really well. It's a constant back and forth of, oh yeah, we'll check this shit out. And obviously their powers are both busted, but counter each other well. Silver can basically make you do whatever he wants if he catches you, but he has to catch you. So, when I considered making a fusion of these two, I realized that the result would not only be practically unstoppable, but also a nightmare to go up against, purely because of how cocky and egotistical he would be. This is Photon the Hedgehog. Photon, named after the fastest thing in the universe, a particle of light, acts just like one. He's got Sonic's free spirit and Silver's awakened mind, so his psychokinesis is always on. He floats above the ground completely weightless at all times. He never walks. Instead of an ability that has to be activated, Photon mostly interacts with the world using his mind powers, nonchalantly lifting and carrying things all around him while his hands are left idle, casually floating sideways or upside down at any point in the day just because he can. But when things get serious and it's time to fight, he unleashes the impossible speed buzzing just beneath the surface. He launches from point to point like a ray of light. Instead of colliding with enemies in a ball like Sonic might, he just gets really close, really fast. The psychic field around him tearing them apart long before they could ever touch. You ever see that clip from Jujutsu Kaisen where Gojo destroys the nature curse Hanami just by walking closer to it? Yeah, like that. And when he's forced to go all out, he'll drag the world around him at speeds approaching his, meaning a handful of rocks in the hands of Silver could be launched pretty hard, but they become an invisible field of instant death when held by Photon, who rips the objects back and forth through the air so fast you can't even see them, and they shred through Eggman robots like a hot knife through butter. Photon is probably my second favorite fusion in the video. My favorite goes to another silver fusion a little later. Before we get to that, I said up top that fusions should be limited to characters who have an existing dynamic. They don't need to be best friends, but they do need to have worked together and would hypothetically be willing to do so in order to fuse.
Lighthead rich with tight spaces, a set of 2, 7 notches, fits various host screws.
To have worked together and would hypothetically be willing to do so in order to fuse. But what if they were best friends? What if Sonic is his best bud and little brother, Tails? Tails is a much calmer, more reserved personality compared to those on this list. He's analytical and methodical by nature. He's great with technology because he's curious and he loves to tinker, which makes him a very different person than Sonic. Tails started out very self-conscious and shy, but once he developed and gained some confidence, he became less of a kid sidekick and more of a partner to Sonic. He specializes in planning, strategy, and of course, engineering all sorts of tools and vehicles. But he's also very physically capable. He can spin his twin tails like a turbine to propel himself almost as fast as Sonic, and when he points them vertically, while Sonic is about as specialized as you can get, he has one stat that's very broken. Tails has a much more varied skill set. So when the two merge, you get a new character that brings together all of Sonic's physicality and Tails' ingenuity. This is Gyro the Mongoose. With Sonic speed adapted to a body that has 2 spinning tails and a genius-level creative intellect, Gyro is a powerhouse. He can use his longer, thinner tails to fly, of course, but like Sonic's quills, ends are hard and sharp, so his helicopter blades can instantly double as a circular saw, slicing everything in sight right down the middle. While Sonic has always been quick on his feet, Gyro is much more crafty in a fight. On a dime,
I don't know
blasting a tunnel of wind at an enemy to send them flying with an unavoidable invisible tail force. Or he'll use his tails like a slingshot, revving up a spin dash while they build up tension to launch him dozens of times faster than he can without them. The main thing is, Gyro is kind of a trickster. Sonic is a cocky smart mouth, but when you combine that with Tails' genius, you get a goofball who loves to pull tricks on his friends and play with his enemies. It's not cruel. Tails' gentle nature actually makes him less confrontational than Sonic, but he is always up to some harmless mischief. Now, when I conceived this fusion, I had a really hard time pinning down a few details. First, the name. I briefly considered Aero, as in aerodynamic, pertaining to speed and flight, or whirl, a rapid spinning that generates an air current. But I went with Gyro because I think it has the most connections. A gyroscope is a circular machine that can rotate in any direction, which not only makes me think of Sonic's spin dash, but also Tails' spinning helicopter. I think it's also a name that Tails himself would really like, with his appreciation for technology and his admiration for Sonic. Also, the halfway point between a hedgehog and a fox is frankly a lot harder to pin down than the other animal fusions. I could totally see like a fennec fox or a fox. Even a tanuki would kind of make sense. I went with a mongoose because they seem to be right in the middle of the two animals size-wise, and their tails are pretty normal, longer than a tiny hedgehog tail, but not as big and fluffy as a fox. But I'm still not sure if this is the best fit for a fusion between these two. If you have a better idea for Gyro's name or species, definitely let me know down in the comments. And since I'm not so confident about this one, I should move on to the fusion I am most sure about. Shadow and Silver. These two are the most man-on-a-mission characters in the series. Shadow is a calm, stoic, and focused guy. He was born in a tragic situation that only became significantly more tragic as time passed. His first and closest friend, Maria, who he was created to save from her illness, was ruthlessly killed because of the danger he posed to the Earth. Shadow is an